Elizabeth here from Neverland Creative, and today I'm going to be walking you through my process for my first layout in my 6x8 story album. So for this layout, I'm actually going to be using Ali Edwards' Fabric Story Kit, which is from February of 2018, and as you can see, I just wrote down a few ideas that I had while listening to Ali's story class about fabric, and then down here I have a little sketch that I drew out of a layout that came to me while I was listening to this prompt in particular, which is a favorite piece of clothing or scrap that is meaningful. And I had this idea that I would take scraps of different parts of my husband's military uniform and combine those into a layout and talk about how really that these uniform pieces represent a part of our lives. And if you know someone in the military, you know that their uniform is a big part of what they do. They wear it every day. And I just thought that would be a fun story to tell. I don't think I've ever really documented a story like that. So I thought this fabric story kit was a really perfect way to document how this fabric that is associated with the military is such a part of our lives. Alright, so that is kind of my mindset going into this process, and I'm excited to see how it turns out. So as you can see, I already have a few circle templates already printed out, and I've laid them out pretty much in the same way that I am actually going to adhere the final product. And I'm just using those circle templates to cut out 3 different types of fabric. If you didn't actually want to cut out the fabric, you could just take photos of whatever clothing you wanted to document and then just cut those photos into circles. But since these uniforms were actually ones that my husband doesn't really wear, I decided that I wanted to go for the more tactile feel and actually use the pieces of fabric for this layout. So here I am just cutting those out. They're by no means perfect circles. If you've watched any of my other videos, you probably know that I am not the best at freehand cutting, but since these circles actually go over the edge, I didn't feel so bad about them not being completely circular and perfect. So here I am cutting out the last piece of fabric, and I'm going to adhere these pieces with the Martha Stewart glue pen. I probably could have used a fabric adhesive, but when I tried it on a scrap piece of fabric, I just didn't like the texture that it gave. It was very starchy, and it made the fabric look permanently wet. So I decided to use the Martha Stewart glue pen instead, and so far it's held up really well. So I'm just going to be adding my embellishments to this left side of my layout, and as you can see, all of my embellishments are from the Fabric Story Kit by Ali. And I was really excited that I was going to be able to use this fabric acrylic word right here. The acrylic word is pretty much the only thing in Ali's regular kits that I kind of have a hard time figuring out a use for, because they tend to be a little bit bigger, and I'm not one for really bulky embellishments. So I was really excited to be able to use this on my layout, and it makes a really great title, and I'm definitely going to try to use the other acrylic words in my 6x8 story layouts now that I'm starting to do layouts like this. So here I am just adhering everything down, and I am using some of that Tombow glue runner and also the Martha Stewart glue pen to adhere everything down, and so far it's all sticking just the way that I want it to, so that's always nice. And what I did cut out was my sewing the edges of those fabric pieces. So I just went and did a simple hand stitch all around the circle, and that is definitely not perfect. Those are not perfect circles. But I think it gives a little bit more texture, and it's just a really fun addition to the layout, and I don't mind that they're not perfectly circular. And even if I did mind, it's a little too late now. So I am just adding the couple of chipboard pieces to this side of the layout. I haven't worked on the right side of the layout as of right now, but you will see that a little bit later. There it is. and I just picked out a few chipboard pieces to use. This is the next day, so I had time to kind of look at the left side and figure out what I wanted to do for the right side. As you can see, I printed out my journaling multiple times just to get the sizing correctly. I am using one of the digital stamps from Ally, which says "Life is a fabric intricately woven by the fibers of our experiences," and I overlaid an ACU pattern, which is a military camo pattern, over that quote, so it kind of has a camo feel to it. It's hard to see in the video, but in real life you can definitely see that it's camo. And I'm just adding a few more circles on this side of the layout, as well as two chipboard pieces. One says "We are in this together always," and the other one says "True Stories." And I really like the way that this part of the layout turned out, and honestly, this was really fun for me. I haven't really done 6x8 layouts other than December Daily, and doing one like this that has a lot of journaling and is kind of a hybrid digital and physical layout was really, really fun. I'm excited to keep doing this, and I'm really glad that I started this story album. So when I was looking at both sides of this layout, I knew that I wanted to bring the pink over to the left side, so I'm going to add this final piece of chipboard that says "Love This," and that is the end of my layout. Alright, so this is my layout completed, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I love that I was really able to translate the sketch that I had in my mind onto paper, and this actually turned out pretty much exactly the way that I had thought about it, so I'm really excited about that. I was thinking about adding the stamped date right over here, but I tend not to like the inks that I have. I have a couple of Ally Edwards inks, but I feel like all of her colors are kind of too bold for this layout, because this has a lot of dark greens and things like that, and the only gray color that I have is not really a gray, it's more of like a really deep black. So I think I might hold off on that for a while, but other than that, this layout is complete. And as you saw, I just used things from the fabric story kit, and this layout is all about the fabric of my husband's military uniforms and how his uniforms represent a really big part of our life right now. If you know someone who's in the military, you know that oftentimes it looks like the camo store exploded all over your house. That's definitely been my experience, especially when my husband is packing or when he's unpacking. It seems like all of his military things just explode everywhere in the house, and I find little things that are related to his uniform in places that you would never think that those things could be. So I just wanted to remember that and document it, and I think this will be a fun story for me to look back on in a few years, and I definitely think it's going to be a story that my daughter will enjoy reading about, because by the time that she gets older, her daddy will probably no longer be in the military, so it's going to be fun for her to know what it was like for her parents during this time in our lives. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and like the channel if you would like to see more content like this. I publish Project Life videos, Traveler's Notebook spreads, and this new 6x8 story album. Have a great day. Bye.